Health Hangout. This is June, Roca. I would like to introduce Tourette syndrome by rhyming some words. Our guest, Mr. Leon Perry, will come in a minute. Let's give him 5 or 10 minutes. When you say a cuss, people go away from you. But when a person with Tourette say, fuck you, we brush it off because we know it is a vocal tic that stems from a disorder. When someone brush you off, you react and say, what did I do? But when a person with Tourette's brush your arms off, we look and realize it is a syndrome. To me, this is the mind creating vocal tics that is suppressed within our body, that comes out to help us realize we have suppressed the negative, and now the body says that's enough. Hear the voices you suppressed. Here's the message. Hear the voices you suppressed because you chose to be nice instead. Forgive the suppression, correct yourself, and help the body correct itself. For the mind and the body work in synchronicity. So welcome to the Hangout, and let's look at what Tourette syndrome means as a disease. It's an inherited neuropsychiatric disorder with an onset in childhood, according to Wikipedia, characterized by multiple physical tics and at least one vocal or phonic tic. The physical tic is the motor tic. These tics characteristically wax and wane, can be suppressed temporarily, and are preceded by a premonitory urge. Tourette's is defined as part of a spectrum of tic disorders, which includes provisional, transient, and persistent or chronic tics. What is a tic? Tic is a sudden, repetitive, non-rhythmic motor movement or vocalization involving discrete muscle group. As we are waiting for our guest, Mr. Leon Perry, let me look at some of the things that I have witnessed with regards to what caretakers and family members and the person himself deal with when they have tics. Hi, Leon.
Hello.
So, do you want to introduce yourself and also talk about what you experience when you have tics?
Yes, my name is my name is Leon, and I have been diagnosed with the Tourette syndrome disorder in 2015 on May the 22nd. And basically, Tourette syndrome is something for me that was a slow development. The onset was in my 20s. I remember one night I was reading. And the next night I went to work, and there was this sensation in my arm. And over time, that sensation grew and developed into the tics as they are today. So it took about I would say roughly 10 years for it to manifest in the intensity that it is now.
Thank you. And could you give us some tics or some vocal and motor tics that you usually exhibit?
Yes, basically, the tick started off with a little jolt, like jolts in like my neck. I would move my neck subtly and unnoticeably, and then it would grow and develop into the word but not So, say if you're saying it like really fast, like that would be the first vocal tick. Um, and the ticks started developing into uh, more ticks, like the word hey, and then the word no. Then it started to developing more into phrases like "you think so," um, and phrases like "I'm talking about you," and it would develop more into coprolalia, which is a form of tics, which are words of profanity, such as let's see, masturbate, which is not really a profanity. Yeah, I guess it depends on the person's perception. Um, bitch, I'll fuck you up, you know, fucking slut, um, things like that.
All right. Would you demonstrate some of the motor tics?
The motor ticks are just like a jolt in the neck, like that. Another tick would be falling back in my chair really fast, like that. Sometimes the intensity is so great that I fall back in my chair, like if I'm working, for instance. But that only happens if I am suppressing the vocal tics. They change into motor tics. And so the motor tics become more intense. So it's like a water hose. If you shut off the water hose, all that buildup of water, um, it has to come out some way. So mine comes out in motor tics.
How do you deal with family members, first of all?
Well, I don't really deal with family members because I'm not around them that much, and if I am around them, then I will suppress the tics, into more simple tics, like saying the phrase "you think so."
Okay. Mr. Leon Perry is having a technical problem right there. So there is also some difficulty with regards to working in an office where he has to suppress these tics, and this can cause some feelings of suppression, and I will let him discuss that. But I would like to go and discuss something else, the caregiver's role. As a caregiver people of people with Tourette syndrome, one of the things that one can expect or one is dealing with is social embarrassment. Seeing another person, hey Leon, you're back.
Yes.
So please tell us your um, the way you deal with family members in terms of when you are attending events and other social activities and things like that.
Well, when I'm attending events or social activities, the tics are minimal because I focus on something else, so they don't emerge as often. And if they do, then I will suppress them into more simple tics or motor tics. So it's really not noticeable when I'm involved in any event or anything or something like that.
Did you receive comments from family members that um, that was said?
Well, not really. The only comment that I received is laughter, you know, um, because in that moment, one of my family members, I did not suppress my tics, and so there was laughter because the tics were um, had a lot of profanity. So it was the first time that they ever heard those tics. So it was laughter. A lot of times it's laughter that is the response.
What about at work? What is your experience at work, and what are the problems that you encountered, and what are the solutions that was um,
Well,
made?
one problem was that I had to uh, get a job accommodation, which I'm not sure what happened with that, but that never went through. I mean, problems at work, there are really none. I just let everyone know that I have Tourette syndrome, so they understand. So I don't really have issues.
So, Leon, let me just um, look at this. When you're at work, you're walking around doing your doing whatever it is you're doing, and you're saying "fuck you," and you're saying, uh, all these profanities. Does that happen?
No, not at work.
Oh, so you are suppressing them.
Yeah, at work it's more like I suppress the profanity and what comes out instead are phrases like "you think so" and "I'm talking about you." So I don't have any. I don't. I don't do, do the profanity at work. Well, I actually do, but that's only if there's no one around me that's listening. So
For caregivers, I would say that this is an intense experience, especially for those who are not so used to cussing because of because they grew up in a culture where it is not allowed or accepted. Another thing that I can see here is social embarrassment, where, let's say, for example, I introduce you to my family member, and suddenly you burst out with these tics, with this vocal and motor tics at the same time, where you go like this, and then you say "fuck you," you know. For me, that will be something that caregivers should be able to deal with. And of course, there are tools you can use to deal with that. Do you do you see the social consequence of this? Like, who have ticks in the society that we live in? Because I can see really that most of us have suppressed these words, especially where I come from, because we're not allowed to curse or say these profanities. I can imagine saying that to my mom or dad, and I will get a slap in the face, you
Hmm.
see. So, this is one thing that can also help caregivers to find out what words, what cuss words they react to. And then from this, forgive and release this so that then they can take care of the person with Tourette with ease. Uh, do you have anything to add to that?
Um, so you're saying that when caregivers are caring for a person that has Tourette syndrome,
Yeah.
um, well, the caregivers are already in a professional position, you know, um, to understand their patients.
Okay. What I'm referring to is, for example, um, wives. Like me, for example, I live with you and we're married, and I have to hear these words every day, and all these motor tics and verbal tics. As I have a tool to use, it's not that intense, but if I don't have any tool, it will be really overwhelming.
Hmm.
So I would advise for those who are giving care for to people with Tourette, especially those who are in a relationship with people with Tourette syndrome, um, to seek some tools that you can use to release your reactions to these same words and motor text. Anything you would like to add, Ian?
Well, um, the way that I see Tourette syndrome is that, there is a process in the mind body relationship that is unfiltered, you know. Um, so this unfiltered process allows the person to express in ways that society deems taboo, you know. It's really a point where Tourette's syndrome reveals the actual nature of an individual on deeper levels, And a lot of times, normally, what we do is try to suppress it, within ourselves and try to present a politically correct um, um, um,
Response.
response to the world. And I mean, the question is it working? You know, I could say on a superficial level, um, there is an appearance that it works, but on deeper levels, as far as and what I mean by working is uh, order, you know, control. Um, so But on deeper levels, we have these things that emerges in people. This anger, this
Mr. Leon Perry is having technical difficulties, but
this
here he is.
anger, thi- this anger, this rage, everything that would equal to what a person with Tourette syndrome um, expresses. You know, um, so really, in a sense, when this process is unfiltered, it creates these consequential um, situations in this world. Which is, I mean, uh, bombing, murder, suicide, everything that seems dark and negative, you know. But, like you said, you as a wife, you have found a tool, a system that works for you as a way to stabilize yourself, around myself. I think that for us as a society, as a world, as a humanity, um, it's more that we have to find that stability within ourselves, to really face on deeper levels the nature of what we have become, as a person, because um, a lot of times what's exercised again is just the superficial responses, but all the deeper levels, all this stuff within us. I mean, yeah, it is either feared, feared, um, is or ignored, something like that, but rarely faced. I think if we can at least face who we are, get to know ourselves on deeper levels, then we can, it will sort of bring a stability within ourselves, a point of flattening ourselves in relation to that aspect of ourselves. Because what happens is that when the dark and the negative is seen within the world, we react to it. We react to it in fear, anger, and stuff like that. That tells us that really internally, uh, we would do the same thing. Because if we are reacting externally to others, we would do the same thing if these things within ourselves just open up and expose itself to ourselves. So really, in a sense, it is actually a gift. You know, uh, a, a gift in the sense that it is a reflection of who we are on deeper levels of ourselves, and to fear it or to ignore it is really not the answer, but it's to find that stability point, to flatten ourselves in relation to that part of ourselves. So then we are actually able to not only flatten, but find solutions so that the things within ourselves do not have to take control, don't have to possess us anymore, you know. And that's all I really have to say.
And now I'm facing something I have accepted in the past, which is going into the positive movement. I was in sales and we were taught how to talk positive, how to sell in a positive way, always say the nice things and smile no matter what. I can see this as the consequence outflow, one of the consequence outflow of that. What do you say to that, Liam?
Well, positivity, does release it does release endorphins. It makes us feel better as a person, as an individual in certain situations and circumstances. In a sense, it can be practical, but
There is another technical failure. Here it is.
okay, yes, in a sense, it can be practical, but then the more that we use it, it can become a crutch. Uh, eh, using positivity all the time to cover up and hide the negativity, the deeper things within ourselves that are more intense. Uh, I mean, we can't keep suppressing it, because it's just going to come at us stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's what happens when I suppress ticks. If I suppress the ticks within me for a time, they will come out stronger. So it's just like an emotion, really. So really, positivity works. If you're in a situation that is tense and you really need, to um, um, uh, be able to work with that moment. But in the long run, using it all the time, it then becomes a crutch. It's like, I need positivity to survive. Well, no, it's just a tool. It's not something that is something to be used all the time. As a crutch. Then you become powerless to it. So that's my perspective of it.
I can relate to that because in the sales situation I had before, I had to survive. So I have to do whatever they told me to do. And of course, it's a crutch because I'm trying to survive and I can't survive without this using these tools that they taught me. But eventually, uh, that makes me feel feel dishonest within myself because at the end of the day, we sleep with ourselves and we fix ourselves. So you ask yourself, what am I saying? Is this really honest, self honest to say these things? Is there any other way of surviving in business and selling where you can be true to your words at the same time sell? So this led me to a point where I tested it out, which is really assisting because I have to realize the intensity of how it is to be spewing words that are not mine and is there, or I'm doing it just to survive. There must be another way. So within my definition of health comes social health. And I always talk about that hand in hand with physical and mental health because they are one and equal to each other. So what do you say to that?
Which part?
Social health in line with mental and physical health. Because the survival point is really driving me to a point where I gotta do this, otherwise I won't survive. I will say whatever they tell me to say, and I can't do anything, sort of thing. Is there a solution, a commonsensical solution that you can see?
In regards to social and mental health?
Is social health meaning assisting the environment to be set up, or the money ecology to work for all of us, where you know, everyone has a means to get the basic necessities they need, so that then they won't be driven to a point of survival, and that they will have to do that which they did not direct themselves to do, just because of that one point. Let's wait for the answer of Mr. Lee and Perry when he comes back.
Okay, well, what I get out of what you're saying is that, a lot of mental health um, is, let me say, a lot of mental disease is created by, well, not created, but supported by the health industry. Because in order for the health industry to exist as it does, it has to keep providing not cures but suppressives, things that will suppress or aid in um, providing temporary relief of some type of disease, um, or some type of suppression that will suppress the disease, rather than finding a cure. Because if a cure is found, then the health industry will not be able to make the profit as it does. So the mental disease has to exist in order for the health industry to exist. And I mean, in a sense, that goes exactly with the Tourette syndrome, and that well, in relation to the suppression point, how the tics are suppressed, you know, out in the world of society in order to maintain a stability of survival, because I don't think there are any adverse effects if I, for instance, just started cussing every day, but there would be some consequence. I would have to get a job accommodation, and my point of survival might be compromised just a little bit, So that suppression helps aid in a more effective survival or approach to surviving in the world. So it's just like mental disease, that the health industry uh, requires to suppress the mental disease or the physical disease in order to keep up its foundation, So that's the way I see it. If money wasn't the issue, then I think, in my opinion, there would be less of mental disease, less physical disease, because right away there will be less stress because of the point of not having to survive, and think about, how can uh, what can I do to survive today? Basically there would be less of that. So I think that would in hand decrease and mental and physical disease. Um, and thus also there would be more research done, because research also costs money. And with research, there cannot be effective research because it costs money, and thus research is diminished on finding a cure for things. And um, yeah, so there will also be cures um, for particular diseases because um, there wouldn't be a dependency on currency to provide that cure.
Thank you, Leon. This brings me back to when you were examined by a specialist. Tell us about that and how much were you charged?
Um, I was charged $400 something for them to just talk to me and just basically give me their opinion on what's happening to me, which I mean, I could have done it myself. Um,
There were subsequent visits that costed you money.
yeah,
You please tell us about that.
yeah, those visits were more of checkups, MRI, electroencephalograms, EEG, um, to find out if there's something in my brain that is causing the tics, which they were not able to find anything. And the electroencephalogram was basically putting these wires on my head to run tests. Well, no, actually, not to run tests, but uh, the EEG are it produces waves, that they can look at and detect any abnormalities within those wave or within those frequencies that the brain is eliciting. Um,
So how much did you spend all in all for all
I would
this?
say about $5,000.
And was there a cure?
No,
Okay.
there is no cure for
Was
Tourette's.
was the cost identified?
No.
Thank you. So that is the state of our health industry at the moment, healthcare industry. It is sad, but instead of being sad, it pushes us to a point where we have to really restructure our money system and our health system. And one day, I'm looking forward to a health care that is free for all. Because if it is not, then healthcare looks as if out of people's diseases. You see, so we have to clean this up. We have to talk about it, and there are simple solutions that we can actually suggest and give to these people who are authorities in that field. I would like to mention at this point the fears that come up within you. So do you have any fears with regard or judgments, or what is it that is going on in your mind whenever you have this physical and voice tics, motor and voice tics?
What's going on in my mind? Um, it's kind of with these weird thoughts at the time of the tick. Like, for instance, I don't know. It's hard. It's just kind of hard to explain, but basically, say for instance, seeing my hand as a corpse, you know, and then that corpse would, for instance, do like that. That's what's going on in your mind, and that's what actually kind of makes the tick emerge. Are these images of these corpse-like hands and uh, I can't really explain it, but yeah. Um,
So how are you reacting to these things, or how do you manage those?
well, when when it gets that intense, uh, it's not a lot that you can do to manage them because with those images, there's a lot of anxiety that emerges. You know, so there's really nothing you can do. Like right now, there's a little bit of anxiety, and yeah. Um,
Looking at tic or tics or Tourette's syndrome as a whole, I would like to be able to throw here the fact that you have sourced so many ways on how to heal this disease. One is homeopathy, and I remembered you also heard an interview about the metaphysical aspect of this disease.
mhm.
It's really cool to get all these different perspectives and present it to you so that then you have a holistic view of Tourette syndrome and every other disease. So that's what we're going to do whenever we interview people here. We're going to look at the physical, mental, quantum physical aspects and the social aspect, the mental, the physical, you know, uh, because that is missing in this world, the totality of the whole person. Normally, what they call whole person is the mind and the body. But what about if we put some other perspectives there that will give us a real holistic view of this person, including social and and quantum physical. So, Leon, give us some insights that you learned from hearing interviews about the Rett syndrome on the quantum physical level.
Well, what you mean by quantum physical? I understand you're talking about. There is a source that I have went to, and basically their perspective of Tourette syndrome is something that they explain on more deeper levels in relation to the mind. Uh, so I listened to that.
Okay, that is it. Okay, here he is.
I listened to that interview or that recording rather, because it's an audio recording. Basically, and it just gave the perspective of Tourette syndrome in relation to the development of it um, on more fundamental and esoteric levels. So it was interesting because what it said, basically, if I can remember, is that basically when the fetus is in the mother's body, uh, that is the time when the mind uh, um, aligns with the fetus, the baby fetus. So that alignment process between the mind and the fetus is very specific. Basically, there is a very specific mathematical process. And so basically, when that alignment is not perfect or is not how it should be, then it can create shifts because the mind first has to align with the baby, the fetus in the mother's body. And then once the mind aligns, then from I might not be 100%, but once the mind aligns with the baby fetus body within the mother's womb is when the uh, the I guess if you want to call soul or beingness or spirit, however you understand that point, um, that is when I just will say soul for this purpose. The soul aligns with the mind and the body, and if the mind is not properly aligned, it creates a shift uh, between the mind and the body and the person that is integrating with the mind and the body, the person, the soul, the being, the spirit, whatever you want to call it. Um, so these shifts are created, and that is the fundamental development of Tourette syndrome. Um,
That is,
yeah.
yeah. Okay. Because it is really very difficult to describe it from the perspective of someone who listened to an interview. It's better that you get these interviews yourself, and we will post a link as we organize the website to all this. So another point that comes up is, as a caregiver, what are the fears that come up? So first fear is fear of social embarrassment and judgments by my family members. Remember that time when my daughter came to the US, and that was one of my fear. It's like, how is she gonna see Leon in this condition? And this aggravated to a point where she has friends. About 5 of them, I remembered, if I remembered right, was with her, and then we ate outside. And Leon started spewing this vocal tics and motor tics, like, fuck you, and things like that. And I was like, okay, let's see what happens here. But because of the tools I'm using, I was looking at it from an objective perspective rather than reacting to it. And this is actually, as Leon said, a gift also, in terms of looking at how I'm reacting to these things, because these are the exact things that I don't want from my partner. Let's say if I'm selecting a partner, the first thing my dad said is, look at their family history. If they have mental diseases or whatever kind of diseases, don't bring them to the family. But I can see that this is not something that came out of nowhere. We created them here, and we have to give gratitude to the microorganisms that is creating diseases for calling our attention. I mean, hey, we give gratitude to anyone. Why not give gratitude to these microbes and bacteria, and viruses, you see? Because when I had cancer, same thing. I forgot other things that was brought to my attention when cancer knocked on my door. And I'm grateful. I really am. And cancer became my best friend. So another fear that comes up is fear of being invalidated. When Leon says fuck you and goes like that, fuck you. And I'm sharing something that is really um, important to me. And he says, you think so, bitch? Let's say, for example, you go and look at him and say, okay, are there reactions within me? In the beginning, yes, there were. So, of course, I use the tools that I normally use, and it works. So, I want to share that with you because I didn't expect that. Another thing that comes to me when looking at Tourette syndrome and tics specifically is politics. Could the words being uttered in politics by politicians who really are not so honest about helping us in this world, could they be just tics? And that is a consequence outflow of the different judgments and blame and fears that we have that we suppress within us that is coming out in the social arena in the form of politics. What do you say to that, Leon?
Yeah, because my thing is, where is the practicality when it comes to politics? Because ticks are basically just words that are uttered, with no real purpose. So I see the saying with politics, that there are these words that are uttered, and the words can sound beautiful, it can sound great, but is the actual practicality? Where is the actual change? Where is the actual leadership? Basically. So yeah, politics. Uh, I could agree with that from that perspective.
So I can see that we can really correct this by putting ourselves in politics and being a candidate and talking about things that benefit
benefit
all
all
of
of
us
us.
and that we can stop these promises and texts that are not supportive to the betterment of all of us anyway in the long term and change that into something that is going to benefit all of us in the long term. Another thing that I can see in society is sales tax. I was in sales for a long time, so I have so many of those. It was, for me, a suppression of the negative and presenting myself in a positive light and not looking at how to present whatever I'm presenting in a way that I can earn money at the same time. I don't have to repeat someone's someone else's words to be able to present a personality, a positive personality to another person. And as you can see now, people are reacting to sales people. They know, and I know, and some of you knows that whenever you get posters, leaflets, emails, sales emails, look, these are just part of the text going on in the sales industry. I mean, in the sales field. So the solution is to really don't give up on ourselves and limit ourselves to express ourselves in a way that compromises our well-being as a person and well-being as a group, as humanity. And that includes plants, animals, microbes, you name it. So that is all for me. Do you have any closing statements for us, Liam?
Well, I think a lot of times, you know, I personally, have lived my life equal to ticks, where, like I said, ticks, they are words or phrases that may sound um, impactful, meaning, like profanity. Those words are basically impactful because more people react to those words. So basically, ticks, living my life as a tick, basically, you know. Um, like I said, ticks are may sound impactful, but don't have a real purpose, So as far as myself, it's a point where basically uh, of transitioning my life from uh, having little to no purpose to actually creating my purpose, uh, so that my life does not become like ticks, just more like repetitive and purposeless, which is something that we all do, and on a certain level have to do to survive, be repetitive and be kind of purposeless from the perspective of survival, because, really making ends meet becomes the purpose, but it's really not a purpose that can provide uh, uh, a real solution to um, creating a world that works for humanity, you know, uh, so that struggle doesn't become something that is a must or a have to, but that struggle is something that becomes struggle, strife, stress.
So let's wait for Liam to come back. Here he is.
Struggle, strife, and stress, the three S's, don't become the uh, thing that must be done in order to live, you know. Um, so uh, that's all I really have to say about that.
And regarding the I mean, regarding playing the phonetics or the sounding of the word Tourette. Tourette for me is to, do not to regret, meaning do not suppress the negatives, but to be the retina of change. To, ret, to, ret, to be the retina of change. That's just how I see it. Do you have anything to share on that level, on that sounding, Liam?
The word that stands out for me uh, is torn. You know, basically how there is, say for instance, a wall between two rooms, and there's a hole in the wall. And one room you have all you have a flood, in one room. Now that you have a hole in the wall, a torn part of the wall as a whole, this water is flowing through in the other wall. So basically, it is a point where there are parts of us, many parts of us, that are torn from a perspective that um, well, actually, yeah, from because the reason that we have to filter things is because there are parts of us that are torn, that are open, you know, and we can see it. Thus, we wouldn't be filtering those things. So it's a point where basically allowing ourselves to just introspect what is behind the veil, behind the filter, behind the positivity or behind the normal stuff that we are acquainted with, and actually see ourselves for who we are behind the filter, you know, as a way of really getting to know ourselves and building our awareness within that. Because also, Tourette syndrome for me, uh, I have developed a little bit more awareness in relation to the internal mechanisms within my body, how the Tourette's feels like within my body, basically. So it is that point of awareness that we have to really birth, and to rather not just constantly filter out what is actually a gift behind the veil. And that gift is a part of us, where we are able to explore and where we are able to become more aware, to be able to expand ourselves beyond the veil.
I like what you said regarding the alignment of the being, the body, and the mind. I realized that we have so many different terms to call the being, you see. As you said, the spirit, the soul, you see. And one day we looked at the word spirit, and right there you can see it is the animating force of life. And what is that? You see. So that's the breath. I would like to also look at the word disorder, because when they say inherited neuropsychiatric disorder meaning there is no order in the way they mentally react to things in this world. But I can see that as inherited neuropsychiatric condition. So I would say that would be a condition Because when we say disorder, sometimes what we do is we stigmatize people who are suffering from a disease, specifically also mental diseases, but with Tourette's, it's kind of a combination of physical and mental. And see them as what it is. Because what I saw in schizophrenia is that we are all schizophrenic in varying degrees. We have tics in varying degrees because we also react negatively, for example, or say, which Leon sometimes do, you know. Don't we do that too? Whenever we don't like someone, get away from me, you see? So we have tics. We have tics in varying degrees. And don't we all say, fuck you, whenever we're presented with something that can be communicated through that word? So let's not stigmatize people who have Tourette syndrome. Rather, let's embrace them and put it back all to ourselves and find out how many tics do we have? How many motor and vocal tics do we have? Because even if you don't cuss, even if you only use positive language, you have to face the fact that within you, you have suppressed the negative of that. Because Leon was like that. He was too nice. And I cannot hear any of these negative things in the beginning until this onset of Tourette syndrome. And I can see that I myself have done the same thing, suppress the negative. So he is showing me or mirroring me. So let's learn from them, and from people with diseases. It is a gift. Thank you so much, Leon. Thank you for being here. What do you want to say?
That's all that I have.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm inviting you for our future hangouts. We have a homeopathy hangout. We invited a homeopath, actually the homeopath who's treating Leon. And we have a person who's studied kinesiology. We have a guest on obsessive compulsive disorder next week. Let's do this. Let's embrace the diseases in this world and mirror it back to us and correct ourselves so that we can change and we can change this world. Bye for now.